Greetings, welcome to Dungeons & GURPS. I'm Enraged Eggplant, and in this video I would like to talk about low strength characters, particularly also small characters such as halflings or goblins, and how you should behave in combat when playing such a character. In D&D, a -2 racial penalty to strength might not be that significant, as -2 people in GURPS are expected to start at around strength 5, and that significantly changes how you should approach combat. First, just a reminder, strength 5 gives us thrust damage of 1d-4 and swing damage of 1d-3. If you're using knowing your own strength system, that turns it into 1d-7 and 1d-5 respectively, and that absolutely screws you over. I would not use knowing your own strength if you're playing such a game. Let's see what melee weapons will give us the highest damage bonuses for both swing and thrust. From one-handed swing weapons, both Mace and Morningstar doing swing +2 crushing damage at SM-2, but requiring strength 6. There is no damage difference between strength 5 and strength 6, so a swing with such a weapon will deal 1d-1 crushing damage. That's an average of 2.5 damage, which is a major wound for an HP 5 opponent. Of course, you could take a cutting or impaling weapon such as an axe or a pick that deals swing +1. The average of 1.5 damage translates into 2.25 injury for cutting and 3 injury for impaling. In my opinion, this is a situation where every point of extra damage matters, so maces that often look underwhelming for a normal character can definitely work here. Also remember that SM-2 weapons are 4 times cheaper, so a mace only costs $13, and a Morningstar costs $80, and SM-2 pick costs $18, and the fine modifier is only +2 cost factor for impaling only melee weapons. A fine pick will cost only $54 and deal swing +2 impaling damage, and that's very good in your situation. However, picks tend to get stuck, and with your strength, it will be difficult to pull it out. A fine SM-2 axe costs $130 and deals swing +2 cutting damage. Also, if you're expected to fight unarmored foes and not parry often, consider Obsidian Weapons. They are described on page 275 of GURPS Basic Set. Cutting and impaling weapons get a +1 damage bonus, but the cost actually decreases if you're above TL1, of course. From one-handed thrust weapons, the highest you can get is thrust +2 impaling with a trident or a pata. That is equivalent to an SM-2 pick described above, but is much more expensive. If you are using a short blade, consider using reversed grip from GURPS Martial Arts page 111 for a +1 to damage. The highest you can get from a two-handed axe or mace is swing +3 crushing. That's a maul that requires strength 7 and costs only $20, or a gada that requires strength 8 and costs also $20, or a tetsubo that requires strength 7 and also costs $20. Or you can get swing +2 cutting, that's an axe, requires strength 5 and $13, or a great axe, strength 6, $20, and some other weapons. And swing +2 impaling for a warhammer that requires strength 6 and costs $20. And many of them become unready after attacking, that's not cool. The most expensive sword, thrusting great sword that deals swing +2 cutting, costs only $225, but that's still expensive. But wait, let's not forget about the pole arms. If you are looking for sheer damage potential, take a look at the halberd. Swing +3 cutting, swing +2 impaling, and thrust +2 impaling, with reach 1 to 2. Unbalanced parry, and that becomes unready on a swinging attack. It requires strength 7 and only costs $38. A fine polearm would cost $380, but an obsidian polearm is likely to be only $15, but improving damage by 1. Strength 7 gives us swing 1d-2, so a normal quality halberd will deal 1d plus 1 cutting damage, average of 4.5 damage and 6.75 injury. A fine or obsidian halberd will deal on average 5.5 damage and 8.25 injury. If you do not like the weapon becoming unready, consider the dueling halberd or pole axe. They deal 1 less damage and have only reach 1. Most two-handed thrust weapons deal either thrust plus 1 or thrust plus 2 impaling damage. That applies to everything from pole arms to simple spears. The spear only requires strength 5 and costs $10, so a fine spear that deals thrust plus 3 costs only $30. That's a steal. That's 1d-1 impaling damage, which is okay, I guess. I should also note that SM-2 pike deals thrust plus 2 impaling at reach 2 and 3, requiring strength 6 and costs only $20. Now that I have covered some melee weapons, let's remember some special combat rules regarding such size differences. When you fight larger foes, you add a bonus to your melee attack rolls equal to your size difference, up to the maximum of +4. That means if you are an SM-2 halfling fighting an SM+0 human, you attack at +2, and that's nothing to sneeze at. This almost nullifies the vitals hit location penalty, something you should target often. Also, you are more difficult to hit. When fighting humans and other upright SM+0 beings, rules for combat at different levels come into effect since you are 3 feet apart in height. The human has -2 to hit the feet or legs, and +1 to hit the head, that's skull, face, or eyes, or neck. You, on the other hand, have +2 to hit the feet or legs, and -2 to hit the head. These modifiers are in addition to normal hit location penalties. Also, you are at -1 to any active defense, while the upper fighter is at +1 to his active defenses. If you are using a reach 2 weapon, the enemy does not get a +1 to his active defenses. This means that attacking the head is difficult for you. Neck is not part of the head though. It is also easier for you to target legs and feet, locations that usually are not as heavily armored as torso and head. When fighting SM+0 enemies, you really should not parry. Your weapons are 4 times lighter than your enemies. Parrying is way too risky. Consider dodging. Slams are bad for you. If you get knocked down when an SM+0 human slams you, he gets to trample you for free. However, the extra bonus damage from stop thrust might be massive for you. If you have FP that you do not know how to use them on Mighty Blows extra effort option. A +2 bonus to damage is huge. Some would say that it is abnormally huge for such damage values. And even a +1 bonus damage from a committed attack strong can make a big difference. All-out attack strong sometimes might be good as well, but be careful with that. If you are using accumulated wounds, you are much better off since you do not need to make a single powerful attack to cripple an opponent's limb. It's also easier for you to hit the fighter's legs and feet, so why not attack joints and arteries from GURPS martial arts? It will be much easier to cripple a limb or extremity that way and bring down your foe for a finishing strike. Crushing weapons usually have a larger damage bonus, so if your GM allows you to target vitals with them, you should consider that option. Then do not get grappled. If you get grappled, you are likely to be screwed. If you feel that you will get grappled, have a backup non-crushing reach C weapon to at least somehow damage the opponent instead of being completely useless. Also, use grappling yourself. However, it is important to remember that if the enemy's strength is more than twice that of someone grappling it, its puny attacker merely counts as extra encumbrance. Such an insignificant opponent can't prevent it from moving away and may not even impose any penalties at all. Striking strength is your friend. As far as I recall, it is not even unrealistic for an SM-2 character to have about 4 levels of striking strength. Remember that it not only lets you deal more damage, but it also allows you to wield heavier weapons. If you take the giant weapons perk, you might even use some big boy weapons for some extra damage and reach. Armor is also cheap for you. Get yourself some damage resistance. Some people say that low SM armor given the same DR is unrealistic, and there are multiple armor scaling rule sets in GURPS. As far as I know, scaling armor down decreases its DR in Dungeon Fantasy, but not in Low-Tech Companion 2. Also, it's useful to have friends. If you have another SM-2 friend who grapples your foe, preventing him from moving, and you hack away at him in close combat, you're doing a good job. Consider using ranged weapons. Crossbows, womb arrows, atlatls, incendiary blowpipes, firearms. Those can do a great deal of damage. And of course, do not forget about magic, psionics, and other powers. This is very dependent on the setting, on the game, but I should mention it. In conclusion, if you're playing a small, weak character, do not expect to be a combat powerhouse. You get what you paid for. But there are still some things you can do to mitigate your weaknesses. Size differences create many interesting combat situations that are fun to explore in-game, often requiring players to think and play carefully. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.